Okay. Am I starting with the item placement editor or doodle state changes? I could try the item placement editor. Let's move this to the current day. Now let me think about what this editor should look like. An editor is something that does not go in the game, which means I can do it with UI Builder. So what did I write as the requirements for this? You need to first choose a sprite from the assets, resources, sprites, items directory. What does choose a sprite mean? And what will choosing a sprite look like? What I could do is have this so I could have some label just to describe what to do. Choose a sprite. Sprites are located in, or I could just write located in assets. I'll just copy and paste this path. Okay, and then we will have a list view. I suppose, and this will have a bunch of items added when which items added on load. So it's just going to, we're going to use some file reading stuff or directory viewing stuff to grab all of the sprite names and put them in this list view. And then when you click one, it's going to be whatever you chose. Okay, so then the next thing is zoom or bark item. So we need a drop down. This is going to be type, item type, and the drop down will let you choose either bark or zoom. After that, for positioning, it should only use anchors And then I want to think about if I can input an X and Y position and translate that into anchors. The item can be drawn in Photoshop, and then the position can be inputted into this editor. I like that idea, so I want a vector2 numeric field. Position and whether it's a zoom or a bark, this item should have a some text that you would input, but the text so I guess this would be used for previewing, but so it's not really important. But this should be generating a so this would pretty much be everything. So we choose an item, we mark an item type and position, then I guess we would need some. So it would create a prefab, but not only that, it would create the associated file in the appropriate directory that you would then the file meaning the yarn script, so that the writer can write whatever they need in here in the file. So all right, so choose a sprite, zoom or bark, position is just X and Y. There needs to be a save button. For now, I'm going to go with the prefab. And after save, when saving a file, a yarn script a blank yarn script should be created in the appropriate directory, and that would be let's just save this for now so I can close it. The directory would be assets writing barks or assets writing meta thoughts. It would be in one of those two directories. Okay. So let me just clean up the editor now. Clean up meaning what? This is just the doesn't need a name. We don't care about that. But this list view is going to be the sprite list view. This is going to be the item type drop down field. Sprites list view, item type drop down field, and position vector 2 field. The reasoning for me doing that is so that now I can create the editor script. I'm going to open, or I'm just going to look at this one so I can remember its editor window and menu items. So yeah, I'd just like to open it so that I can know what is necessary for me to add this editor to the toolbar at the top of the project, at the top of the editor, I mean, here. So I will create item placement editor and open it. I know it's an editor window. I'm not too interested in the dimensions. I do think this is necessary. What's happening here? Get window, load the visual tree asset. Right. Then we instantiate it, add it, and move on. So like most of this could be the same, but this is an item placement editor. Whoops. Okay. Now, this initialize tree part is, there's no copying going on here. I just need to refer to all the elements from here. So it's just these three: the sprites list view, the item type dropdown field, and the position vector 2 field. List private list view, sprites list view, private dropdown field, item type dropdown field, and the private vector 2 field, position vector 2 field. When we initialize the tree, we don't we need to do something with the instance? Or what? Root visual element. That's all I need to do. Whoops. Why am I going to different windows? It's just this tab. So root visual element.q. Okay. So now there's only two possible item types, and I can just include them here. Private enum item type is bark or zoom. So item type drop down field dot how do I set it's the items? No. Uh choices equals item type. Enum. How do I do enum enum to list? Let's get values. Hmm. What's the other one? It's link. No. What is get what is array here? Apparently I'm supposed to use link here. And then I cast as item type. Can I just do select? Um, what other things are there here? Enum not get names. This still needs link. Okay. The choices are just the names. I put it as an enum. It could have just been a string, but the enum will hopefully be helpful later. Okay, anyway. That's the item type drop down field. The position, I don't really need to do anything with until we're actually submitting. So I did forget that I need to add a save button. Okay. For the sprites list view, I'm going to need to I have to do something. I have to do I have to get the path to the game. The sprites are in the resources folder, so I could try doing resources. I don't want to load them though. That's why I kind of want to just do directory uh get files. And then the path is the tricky part. So in the Unity editor, how do I get the path to in the Unity editor, how do I get the path to the resources folder or just to the assets directory? Hmm. Am I supposed to use asset database? Get asset get path. That's not I'm not trying to do it for an asset. What are they doing? I'm not trying to find assets. Data path. Okay. It's just application data path. Application data path. In the Unity editor, it's path to project folder and then assets. So then it's going to be assets, resources, sprites, items. Okay. Let's go to that directory and see what files are contained there. Right now, it's just a PNG. So I'm going to do. Can I just do for each here, or is this an array? It's an array, so I have to do for each string sprite file, I guess. We're going to do file. We're going to do what exactly do I want to do here? Well, let's think. Event if I follow what I wrote in here, then I would be creating a prefab. The prefab is going to have an image component, and the image component wants the input to be the sprite. What's the value in doing that? It means I can just take the sprite name and then input it into the and then use the same I'm gonna have to load. I'm gonna have to do resources load here. But I can still get the path easily. But I'll do resources load to load the sprite, set it on the create a prefab and set the sprite on that image along with the position or manipulating the position to use anchors instead, and then create the prefab, and it should be storing the position, the sprite we want. That's pretty much it. Okay. So let's do that. Um, we want to do sprites list view add. We're gonna add something here, which means we need a visual element here, which is just gonna be a button. Is there not a simpler way to do this? I feel like I've gone down this route before, and I'm not sure. That there is something simpler than the list view here. So I'm going to be creating a bunch of buttons, I guess. But it's not really a button. I mean, as long as I can select, then all this really needs to be is a visual element or a label. So label new. Does it just let me create it like this? File get our path get file name with without extension file. Let me add the label. Let's just start like that. Uh, item placement editor, item placement editor UXML. That's what I get for copying and pasting. You can't add directly to this visual element. Use hierarchy.add if you know what you're doing. No. Wait, why? What's the error? Uh, Unity UI element list view. Okay, let me read. A list view is a vertically scrollable area that links to and displays a list of items. A list view is a scroll view with additional logic to display a list of vertically arranged visual elements. Each visual element in the list is bound to a corresponding element in a data source list. The data source list can contain elements of any type. I need, all I need to do is set the item source. Okay, so I'm not creating this at all. All I need to do is say the sprites list view dot item source equals this select file path get file name without extension file to list. And it'll automatically handle the creation for me. So it has two. Because there's png.meta and it removes the meta extension from the second one. So where file path get extension file, where it's not the case that does get extension include the dot path get extension? Including the period. Okay. Return or file meta. It's not the case that meta equals path this. This parentheses. So first it's the parentheses for this get extension, then it's for the equals, then it's for the where. Okay, that's why there's a triple parentheses. And I can select one. So I select one, set it to bark, set the position, press save. Okay. I'm still thinking. What am I thinking of this time? Well, we are able to select the sprite, we're able to assign the type, we're able to input the positions. Now all I have to do is implement save. Which means I have to do save button dot clicked plus equals on save button clicked. On save button clicked, we are going to Well, first, we're gonna start, uh, hmm, I can just start with default values, right? So that I don't have to like think of this scenario where the save button's clicked and there's no item selected from the sprite list view and there's no item type selected from the drop down field. So we'll do sprites list view dot selected index equals 0 and item type drop down field dot selected index equals 0. What does this index represent? I'm not sure. Let's see what it looks like now if I just open this. Okay, so there are pre-selected things now. And this should throw an exception because it's not implemented. Okay. That's easy enough. The tricky thing now that I also haven't done is translating the position into anchors. How do I do that? Um, so, let's say this phone was an item. What I would need to determine is what does the X and Y position represent? Does it represent the center of this sprite? Does it represent a certain corner? Then whatever it is, I would use that information to determine uh how far away this sprite is from the top, left, right, and bottom of the canvas. So that way I can do math to determine the ratios for the left, right, up, and down. Those ratios would need the size of the sprite. And it would have to take into consideration the size after transformations. Transformations referring to translation, maybe rotation, maybe not rotation, I'm not sure. But, and maybe not reflection, but dilation. So considering translation and dilation. Because I don't want to think about rotation and I don't think reflection changes anything. It's just flipping it either vertically or horizontally, so it doesn't actually mess with the size, I believe. Unless the anchor is weird, but just based off of how you would intuitively think about a reflection, you'd think an image is always the coordinates of an image are always based on its center, but that's not necessarily true. You can position it based off a corner, but then when you flip it or you reflect it, you can go off of the center. They could just be separate things. Okay. So I can start with the assumption that the anchor for the sprite will always be at its center. Um, but let's get to let's do everything else before we get to that. So I want to implement the thing that allows me to convert the x and y coordinates into anchors, but I need to get to that point first. So to get to that point, first I I could either create a a game object from here with no prefab, or I can load a prefab and then create a prefab variant. I think I'm gonna just create a game object from scratch. Now, the name is going to be sprite list view selected item, and since it's just a file names, you can cast it as a string. That's the file name. Now the component we want to add is dependent. So okay, we're gonna have an array of components, or an array of types. So the thing is, the types that are in this array will vary. So all I need to do for now is get the size of it. So I guess this is the if I don't put a size, it's unhappy. So the first thing, so can I do both a size and initializer? Type of image. Fine, just do 3 of them. Okay, so that's what it complains about. And we can't do it that way if we can't do only like 2. It's gonna complain. Unless I do null. I could do null. So first is type of image. Second is what's supposed to happen? It the this item. Okay, let me look at the existing items. We want a canvas renderer. We want a button. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 components. Canvas renderer, image, button, but this is supposed to be UI, Unity Engine, UI button, and null. This last thing that's null is going to change depending on item type drop. If item type dropdown field dot value the choices have to be string. Fine. There's no point in it being an enum. Has to be like that. So now I can just do item types. I mean, I'm just going to be using these directly. So then why? I mean, there's no reason for this list to exist over here other than so that I don't have. I mean, maybe I'll refer to this at some other point. I don't know. Uh, I item bark button. That's all that would end up happening here. So there's more, but I'm getting toward an hour and I kind of need a break. So I probably will do more later.